Hello, welcome to Body Slammin' with Daniel Vega. And this is your host, Daniel Vega. Okay. I had forgotten that I was recording live, so I pressed stop just to see if it would stop or not, and I didn't realize it was live, so sorry that I cut out in the middle of talking. I'm sorry I ended it so abruptly, I didn't mean to. But I'm pre-recording this, and like most podcasts do, and I needed to do something. So when you pre-record, you can pause. So I'm gonna pause this, and then I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna continue talking about I'm gonna continue doing this gonna continue doing this watch along of Ring of Honor from this past Monday, and I'll go do what I need to do and then come back, and I'm gonna pause this. Please don't press stop, because I'm gonna come back. Okay, here I go. Okay, I'm back. I have to, I gotta be honest with you. This is the time when I would talk about, sorry, I had to drink something, because I was thinking about what to say. Normally this is the time when I would talk about the pay-per-view I saw yesterday afternoon. But things are different now, so what I will have to do, because I have literally forgotten everything that I've spoken about in the first episode of Nitro versus Raw, or Raw versus Nitro. To WWF fans out there, it's Raw versus Nitro. To WCW fans, it's Nitro versus Raw. So the way usually I would talk about that on here, but because I just sent out a new tier price or offering starting at $5, where I talk about pay-per-views as a bonus feature, bonus part of the of my episodes. Because of that, I'm gonna be talking about Raw versus Nitro, and talk about the pay-per-views that came up during the time during the ratings war. And I'll do all of that on Patreon. I will, however, talk about the old pay-per-views, the first ever pay-per-views in the 1980s. And I already spoke twice about Starcade. So, I'm gonna try to see if I can keep recording this as I look at other stuff. So I'm gonna try to look at the WWE Network app to see if it'll still record as I talk. So that's what I'll do. Last week I remember reading about, I remember talking about Starcade. I think it was the first two Starcade pay-per-views, and I remember thinking to myself, how am I going to... Okay, the only thing I know from Starcade 1985 was the U.S. title match being inside a steel cage because it was an I Quit match, and to keep the U.S. champion's female manager out of the ring, the only way they could keep her from getting involved, at being Tully Blanchard's manager, Baby Doll, to keep her from getting involved, they set up the cage so that they could finish, so that they could have a decisive victor. Plus, they don't want a woman to get hurt on top of that, so they just set up the cage not only to keep her out of the ring, but to keep her from getting hurt. That's what I think is part of the real life thinking at the time. Part of the real life thinking was to keep her from getting hurt, not just to keep her from getting involved. They wanted to make sure she didn't get hurt. And boy, when I take a look at at all the pay-per-views on the WWE Network app on the PlayStation 4, I realize how many pay-per-views they have. So when I'm not talking about the Monday Nitro versus Monday Night Raw, I'll talk about the pay-per-views right here on on Spreaker. If I'm not mistaken, I believe, I just moved the iOS or iPad. I moved it far away, and microphone can still carry far away, so I can look up this pay-per-view the way it needs to be. I'm not sure how other podcast hosts like for instance Road Warrior Animals, his co-host named Joe. I always forget his name. Yeah, I forgot that sometimes they air these regular commercials before they air their own tap-out commercials, but this time they aired this commercial only to lead into Starcade 85.
Controls from any device by going to account settings.
Wow, never seen that before. There's just a commercial or an advertisement for TV Mature, like
Program is rated TVMA. What you're about to watch contains explicit language, adult themes, violence, and may not be suitable for viewers under 18. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. You can activate parental controls from any device by going to account settings.
boy, times sure have changed. As I recall, I don't remember the outcomes of every match, but I remember the language, and I don't remember there being a lot of cursing in these days, so it must, what they're talking about must be, let's go beyond the parameters of cursing.
Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome as Jim Crockett Promotions presents Starrcade 85. It's the gathering. I'm Bob Cole along with Tony Schiavone. Tony, tonight, professional wrestling history will be made, and all of these fans across the country are a big part of it. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. It's the night you've been waiting for. It's Starrcade 85, and Bob, we have a fever pitch here at the Omni in Atlanta for what should be a night that we all will remember. Now, standing by at the Greensboro Coliseum is Johnny Weaver. And Johnny, of course, will be with us throughout the night talking to some of the people at the Greensboro Coliseum. We're going to ask Johnny right now about the pitch at the Greensboro Coliseum because, Johnny, it's excitement here in Atlanta. How is it at Greensboro?
Tony and Bob, the atmosphere here is unbelievable. This place is jam-packed to the rafters, about 17 or 18,000 people out there, all on the edge of their seats, and the stage is set.
You know, I think about the American dream, Dusty Rhodes, because the man who worked so hard to get right back here tonight, that's what it means, the American dream, to come back into that injury against Nature Boy Ric Flair. And Johnny, one more question for you. You've got a cage match, and I quit match. As a matter of fact, you've got 2 cage matches there in Greensboro, and I know...
I remember Dusty talking about how big of a deal this was, having one, this was before WrestleMania, which was actually, I say this was before WrestleMania. I gotta look at this again. Because I'm sorry for doing this to y'all. And what I mean by y'all is people that like to hear things from beginning to end. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I wasn't doing something out of sequence. Okay, finally got to a WrestleMania so I can look up the first one. Okay, it looks like I made a mistake. And I'm going to have to talk about WrestleMania first. The first WrestleMania is no big deal. I love talking about WrestleMania as much as I love talking about Starrcade. However, what I love to do, which I might have already done this, but I don't remember if I did. What I love to do, as much as watching it and playing it for y'all to listen to in the background, when I don't know what I can say about, when I put it on mute and all y'all can hear, when I put it on mute and all I can do is read the words but not know if it's accurate or not, because sometimes closed captioning doesn't have the right name. They have the right words on the screen for closed captioning. Because of that, that's why I like to press not press, but that's why I like to put it on sound. But before I do this, I'm going to read about what they say is the setup for the matches. For the event itself. All I know is that there was something called Rock and Wrestling, and It involved, at first it was Roddy Piper, I think, was going against Hulk Hogan, or feuding with him. And then you had Cyndi Lauper getting, she and her manager got involved. Then after what, I actually don't know, I actually forgot how Mr. T got involved in this. But they eventually brought him into this, and I really, like I just said, I don't remember how, so all I know is that it had to do with their rock and wrestling connection. And it all started in VH1, and that was the time when Roddy Piper started to develop his talking ability and what actually made him, today, many people call him the greatest villain of all time. And it all started right here with his own talk show, Piper's Pit. 9 professional matches. They booked 9 professional matches. 9 matches for WrestleMania, excuse me. A title match, heavyweight title match. World Tag Team titles. I'd have to see by all the... Okay, Intercontinental Tag Team title match also. No heavyweight title match because the main event was Hogan and Mr. T against Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper. So no heavyweight title match, but they did have Intercontinental title, Tag Team title, Body Slam Challenge for the $15,000 match, and the women's match for the women's title. Let's see. Commentators were, of course, Jesse the Body Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon. Lord Alfred Hayes and Gene Okerlund did the interviewing. Ring announcers. The ring announcer for the main event was Billy Martin, and Howard Finkel was the regular ring announcer for the event leading into the main event. Referees were Jack Lutz, Dick Kroll, Joey Marella, Pat Patterson, and Henry Terranova. Special guest timekeeper was Liberace. The special guest outside referee, which has become known as special guest enforcer, in the main event was Muhammad Ali, and then the Rockets were the special guest. They were a American precision dance company founded in St. Louis, Missouri. And they had performed Radio City Music Hall in Manhattan, New York since 1932 until 2015. They also had a touring company. Let's see. Because they don't have these videos uploaded yet, I'm going to have to say what the preliminary matches are, because they were on TV. Gene Okerlund opened, hold on. I think this might have been on the pay-per-view itself. Never mind. However, storylines. First, they talk about the background. They had a show called Brawl to End It All on July 23rd, 1984 was when it was aired. And it was from a live Madison Square Garden show on MTV. That was when Randy Richter defeated Fabulous Moolah to win the women's title. She had Cyndi Lauper with her in her corner. War to Settle the Score was actually the match that Roddy Piper picked as his favorite match against Hogan. It aired on February 18th, 1985. Leilani Kai accompanied Moolah. No, Moolah accompanied her against Wendy Richter. And she beat Wendy Richter for the women's title. And once again, Cyndi Lauper was in Wendy Richter's corner. And aside from Lauper, other celebrities appeared during the build-up to the event and at the event itself. The people I just mentioned, Liberace with the Rockettes, Muhammad Ali, and Billy Martin was a MLB manager, which I did not know that. Storyline, of course, we know now that they are scripted storylines with matches ending them. And we know that everything else is scripted, or was at this time. The rest were ad-libbed. Let's see. Leading into this event, Greg Valentine feuded with Tito Santana over the Intercontinental title. And Greg Valentine had beat Tito for the title on September 24th, 1984. And then they were going to settle that. And then, of course, Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham won the World Tag Team titles 3 months before WrestleMania by beating Dick Murdoch and Adrian Adonis. So that's interesting how they ended up defending the titles against the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. Then the month leading up to this was, of course, the first ever Piper's Pit episode where Jimmy Snuka was hit over the head with a coconut by Jimmy Snuka, leading to a feud between he and Piper. And then that's at first, Bob Orton Jr. was actually supposed to be protecting Roddy Piper. So that's why he was not in an active wrestling capacity. The other part was because they claimed he had an elbow injury. So he always had a cast around his arm. So another episode of Piper's Pit, Piper spoke out against the burgeoning rock and wrestling connection. That was the first time they confronted each other, he and Hogan, in the build-up to this. In February 85, they faced off against each other, War to Settle the Score, of course. And he beat Piper by disqualification after Paul Orndorff and Mr. T by Paul Orndorff and Mr. T, excuse me. I'm sorry, I had read this and I didn't realize that what I was about to read was another sentence. So I had to stop right here and say the next as it happened. Their ongoing feud led to their match at WrestleMania. Unfortunately, however, as a part of their promotion, they appeared on Hot Properties which was hosted by Richard Belzer. I thought he put Richard Belzer in an armbar. It was a front chinlock. And because he wasn't trained for that, he actually bled profusely. And he ended up requiring 8 stitches, and he sued Hogan for $5 million. Luckily, though, they settled out of court. And after that, the night before WrestleMania, Hogan and Mr. T hosted an episode of Saturday Night Live to help promote the event. And, don't know when, but this eventually led to Saturday night's main event, I think. So that's what's interesting about it. I gotta look at how long I've been recording this. Okay, good. I want to press play because of how fun it is to do this. And I promise next week I'll talk about Starrcade 85, which was just like 8 months down the line, I believe. So I want to say thank you. First, beginning was Gene Okerlund singing the Star Spangled Banner. After showing pictures okay, I was trying to go to right before the end of the Executioners, right before the Executioners, promo. I was trying to get to before it. Okay, they have the WrestleMania logo, the first WrestleMania logo, with the old WWF logo above it, with the lines on the side and underneath the Wrestle part, leading into the Mania part. And underneath WrestleMania, they have where it's live at, and it's Madison Square Garden.
See the Body Ventura as the World Wrestling Federation presents the wrestling extravaganza of all-time WrestleMania. Enjoy it, folks, and right now, let's go up to our ring announcer, Howard Finkel.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WrestleMania. And now, I would like to ask you all to please rise. Here to sing our national anthem is the World Wrestling Federation's own Mean Gene Okerlund.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to need a little help on this one, so if you would please join us with the Star Spangled Banner. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad spikes and bright stars through the perilous fight on the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Everybody, oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave on the land and on the free,
Unbelievable, Mean Gene Okerlund.
First match was, of course, Executioner versus Tito Santana.
I am a big leaguer. Executioner.
I don't really need this to be an hour, so I'll save watching the entire matches for Patreon, and I'll stick to just saying how the matches ended. I really remember, though, watching this first WrestleMania on DVD and being actually amazed. If I'm not mistaken, I think I saw Ricky Steamboat on here. um, yeah, against Mad Bourne, who actually became Doink in the WWF, the first Doink. And he actually, I didn't find him to be cocky, but he was not as nice as I was used to hearing him talk, so it was kind of different, to be honest with you. So if I'm going to air anything, I would actually have to. Sorry, I'm rewinding it. I'm gonna air the promos or interviews of each match. That way it'd be different.
Of opening WrestleMania are two super wrestlers. Firstly, we have the Masked Executioner, and he is pitted against Tito Santana, who has definitely proved his worth here at MSG. Now I'm going to throw you back to my colleague Gene Oakland, who had pre-recorded interviews with these two wrestlers.
All right, Tito Santana, moments away, your big match with the undefeated Executioner. I know absolutely nothing about the man.
Well, I don't know nothing about the man. I know that he's a big man. But I know one thing, Gene. I know he hasn't been in the big leagues here in the WWF. Executioner, I respect every opponent I go up against. But I've got some goals, brother, and nobody's going to stop me. I mean nobody. That includes you. You're going to find out about the big leagues real soon as we step into the ring, Executioner. Arriba!
I thank you very much, Tito Santana, part of WrestleMania. Now, on the other side, let me bring him in, the Executioner. Obviously, we know nothing about this man, and I don't think we're going to get any
You will know something about me after I get through with Tito Santana. I'm going after your leg. The leg that was hurt by Greg Valentine. And there's a reason for it. And then everybody is going to know who the Executioner is. And I'm here to go after the leg and nothing else. And you're going down, Santana. I am a big leaguer.
Executioner.
This contest is scheduled for one fall with a 20-minute time limit. Introducing first to
Slam. Brought him back, did the hard way. Santana off the ropes once more. Oh, high forearm. Flying forearm by the former Intercontinental Champion. And once again, Execution is reeling. Dragging him out to center. Look out. Figure four. He's got it.
He's got it. He's hooked it in.
He slapped it on. That's it.
I don't think he'll last. He's
No
trying to
way.
get it. No way. Tito's
Okay.
got it cinched in there.
So I'm glad I aired or played the promos for the listeners to listen to, because that's actually part of why we're on SmackDown Live are not as exciting as it used to be, is because of how the talking just is not as good as it used to be. It's not just the writing, it's like talking's not as good as it used to be. And we talk about how great Ambrose is on the microphone, Rollins is on the microphone, Corbin is good on the microphone also. But there's some people that have a natural ability to talk or cut promos. But really, when you look at the business, how it's changed and everything, and how the indies have people who it's more about their in-ring work. That is what the WWE focuses too much on storylines, and they don't write well enough to complement the wrestlers. So that is why, in my opinion, the ratings are so bad. And not just that, the stories are ridiculous. You're talking about not making sense. This past Monday, as I said on here the other day, you gonna tell me it makes any sense to not call for the bell? Just because you might be intimidated by the person coming in the ring? No, you have to do... No, if it was a regular sanctioned referee instead of a wrestler that was turned into a referee by a power-hungry general manager-elect, like Baron Corbin, if it wasn't for that, probably the regular sanctioned referee would have called for the bell. So that is what that's what I think is failing. Impact Wrestling has great matches and stories, but they air at 10 o'clock, and I don't think that's, no, it's not a good sign, but I don't think it's a good idea by by Pop TV to put them up at that time whenever you have, when you have other shows to go on before it. By 10 o'clock, most people today don't want to see any more TV. So I'm hoping they get a TV deal soon that understands the wrestling fans and will put them on at a decent time. Anyway, getting back to my statement about the promos, he said the executioner said he was going to work on Tito's leg and how they will, after this match, will know who he is. Well, the way that Tito was moving around, hitting him with the forearm to lead him to the figure 4 leg lock, it's obvious he didn't do much working on his leg. By the way, he gave up and Tito Santana won, but it's just the thought of how to build up a match. And today, you see a lot of wrestlers don't even mention what they're gonna any foreign part of the body working on it. You don't even see a person working on a body unless it's on the indies or unless it's already been hurt. So that's a big part of the business that has changed. So anyway, that was I know by watching it a couple of times, I know these matches are great. I just want to talk about the promos and the match results to see if any of them ended up being different than the promos set them up to be.
Executioner's history, Tito Santana serving notice for the Hamburger. So much for undefeated record books as far as the Executioner is concerned. That is match right here in WrestleMania, and one Tito Santana, who certainly has mastered that figure 4 leg lock. Look at this beautiful flying.
They show a replay of that flying forearm and the figure 4 leg lock being set up and winning it.
He could have pinned the Executioner, but he wanted that figure 4 leg lock, and there he cinched it down, Gino.
He knows Valentine is watching this match, and he slapped that one on there just to show him what he can look forward to. But right now, let's go back in the locker room area to his lordship.
Thank you, Gino. And our next match coming up on WrestleMania involves a mighty gentleman, 450 pounds, King Kong Bundy. And of course, he'll have the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, with him. He is opposed to that great star, S.D. Jones. Now, for some pre-recorded interviews, let us take you to my colleague, Gene Okerlund.
WrestleMania coast to coast this afternoon. Come on in, S.D. Jones. You've got your work cut out for you. Moments from now, King Kong Bundy. If you're not ready by now, I guess you never will be. Special delivery.
This is the moment I've been waiting for. Everybody out there, get ready for the man. I'm ready. I'm going to get down with the biggest thing in town, King Kong Bundy, and the stoop, the music man. Today is the day for me, baby. I'm going to get down for you. Get ready, baby. Buy your hats. Buy your thing. This is the biggest in wrestling history. We're going to get down today, baby.
All right, special delivery Jones to collide with this mountain of a man, Jimmy Hart, King Kong Bundy.
King Kong Bundy's Red Archer Kong. Tell him, baby.
You know, it's only fitting. The biggest call in the history of professional wrestling, the biggest man in professional wrestling should be there. S.D. Jones, I want you to think about it. I want you to think about being in that corner. I want you to think about that big avalanche, and I want you to think about a 5 count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom!
All right, special delivery Jones to be King Kong Bundy. Next.
I've never seen a guy like this guy.
He's hurt, SD. Look out, avalanche! Bundy with that big avalanche. Just crushed him. Oh, God!
And a giant smash.
It's over!
It's over just like that. King Kong Bundy has demolished delivery Jones and I believe record time, Gino.
Unbelievable history, undoubtedly, in my opinion, made.
And, for me as a fan, watching these videos, that's actually why I'm glad. That's why I'm glad over a year ago I decided to do my own podcast, because it makes me think of how to talk about it, and I gotta tell you the truth. I had watched, there's a videotape we recently had to throw away, but they might add this to their home video collection down the line, and it was like the three best WrestleMania matches. Intercontinental title match, tag team match that was to determine the number one contender for the titles. Then of course, the heavyweight title match in WrestleMania 3 between Hogan and Andre the Giant. And so that's why I love watching these, because I know how much they all have their own special places in history. King Kong Bundy, don't know if he's ever been inducted in a Hall of Fame. What I really remember was how he and Jim, Hillbilly Jim, had midget tag team partners, and when he decided to cross the line and attack a midget, his partner, talking about Bundy, when he turned on one of his midget partners, they turned on, when he assaulted one of Jim's midget partners, his partners turned on him, and they got disqualified. And I was just thinking how, when watching him go against regular-sized men, I think it's very interesting how, instead of taking a 3 count, after this happened, in other videos I would see of him, he didn't even take a 3 count. Usually he would have the match end at a 5 count just to be different. I thought that was interesting. So let's see what the next. Okay, Ricky Steamboat and Matt Bourne talk about their next match. So I want to play that interview. Show a replay of that. Show a replay of this last match. Then he went for the Avalanche, which is this was before Sting created the Stinger Splash. So this might have been the first time that anybody did a splash in the corner. Then he hit a running splash body splash onto his opponent to finish the match, and he beat Special Delivery Jones. And I was just telling my mom about this the other day, that about 2 or 3 months before, maybe 5 months before WrestleMania was even being promoted, Jimmy Hart, who was managing King Kong Bundy right here, and also managing some other stars, I'm sure, he was still in Memphis, in the territories, the little bit that they had left at this time. And he would always get a payphone and check to see if there were messages at his home. And he said when he had gotten a message from the WWF, he didn't think it was really Vince. So they sent a friend of his, Hillbilly Jim, as a matter of fact, to go talk to him. And he said, I thought it was a joke. Do you think it's too late to come in? And luckily it wasn't too late. And then, sure enough, he already had a popularity about him when he came into the WWF. So that's why. So I think that just shows how if you bring people in from other companies, it helps you out. So I'd say that that's really what killed the business. How Vince killed the business was by not being partners with other territories. As a matter of fact, buying out territories and never partnering up with other companies. And being that they bring in talent from other companies and make them redevelop their characters just to give them their own, just to give them their WWE character, make sure it's a WWE only character, I believe, is a real big mistake, because people are already used to one style. What if they can't change their style for you? Anyway, slowly bringing back managers is a great way to change a lot of dynamic. But I don't know if they fill up. I don't know what it's gonna take. I just know that I believe they need to switch networks, because the longer they're on USA Network, the worse the ratings are gonna be. Anyway, let me listen to this promo and.
It was 23 seconds, I believe, Jesse. And holy mackerel, that one's going to stay in the record books for a long, long time. Right now, let's go back to our locker room.
And it's Ricky Steamboat, I believe.
Hawaiian Ricky Steamboat to go against my guest at this time. He is none other than Portland, Oregon's own Matt Bourne, tremendous second-generation wrestler. Certainly, the Maniac has his work cut out for him this afternoon.
Gene, let me tell you something. I look at this as the opportunity to beat a man that is known worldwide. He's phenomenal condition. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. But, Ricky Steamboat, you're missing one quality, and that is you're too nice of a...
I'm sorry, everybody. My cell phone, somebody was calling my cell phone. I had to pause the video to see if maybe it was somebody I knew. Luckily it wasn't, so I'll just continue this.
Guy, because you're there to win just like I am, but I am there to beat you up.
All right, the words of Matt Bourne, come on in. The opposing corner, Ricky Steamboat, big test for you this afternoon.
It's a big test in my life and everybody's wrestling career that's involved in this particular game. This is the biggest wrestling extravaganza that's coming across the nation. Mr. Maniac Matt Bourne getting up here telling everybody that one thing that I am lacking is the meanness. Well, that's what I've come to this area to develop that. And brother, on just a few minutes, I'm going to start right with you. Right in that squared circle. I'll meet you
Stand by, Ricky Steamboat and Matt Bourne next up on WrestleMania.
A very determined Ricky Steamboat, Jess, and this is to the top turnbuckle.
Goes up top rope, does Ricky Steamboat. Crossbody, 1, 2, looks like 3. For a lot of people, it may not be familiar with Ricky Steamboat. Y'all might just be watching this for a few years, maybe 5 years, or 6 years. Then Ricky Steamboat, I might have said this before, I don't really remember what I say on my podcast, but what Ric Flair loved about Ricky Steamboat was his ability to wrestle without practicing. And even though Ric Flair always struggled with entering defensive moves, he always loved wrestling without practicing. So that's what made his feud with Steamboat so great. And Sting loved changing. So even though Ric Flair couldn't change, Sting could. So it made it even more fun for Ric Flair to work with Sting. So I remember him saying when he inducted Sting in the Hall of Fame that it was hard, that he's not gifted defensively. So that's really another interesting thing about not just wrestling, but it's interesting to look at all the videos, because you could see some of the things that Ric Flair pulled off against Gary Von Erich in that collection that I spoke about on Patreon. I was really amazed at the things that Ric Flair pulled off, because for somebody who's not defensively gifted, he sure wrestled a lot like he knew how to defend himself. So it's really amazing things to look at. The next person to get interviewed, I believe, is Brutus Beefcake, who's going against the living legend Bruno Sammartino's son, David Sammartino.
Shot, double karate shot right to the throat. And the fans just love him. Right now, let's go back into the locker room area once more to our Lordship Alfred Hayes.
Thank you, Gino. Our next bout here on WrestleMania brings two really great stars together. One, the pompous but powerful Brutus Beefcake, and he is matched against David Sammartino. Now, as we all know, David is looked after. His fortunes are guided by his father. Bruno Sammartino, we've got a legend here. Somebody who has always been admired by wrestling fans and trying to emulate his father, and achieving this very object is, of course, David Sammartino. Earlier, these men had a lot to say. Let us hear exactly what took place when they had these heated words.
Moments away, Brutus Beefcake, Johnny Valiant in his corner to meet David Sammartino, Father Bruno. In your corner, David, are you ready?
I am absolutely ready. You know, I've been waiting a long time for this. I've been training hard, and Dad's been right behind me. You know, it seems like Beefcake's been a little cocky after he put Big Jim out of commission. But what goes around comes around, and he's going to be in for a big surprise.
I'd just like to say, Johnny Valley, don't stick your nose in, because if you do so, help me, you're going to run right into this.
All right, I thank you very much, living legend Bruno Sammartino, along with son David. Come on in. Brutus Beefcake, manage your lunches. Johnny Valiant, moments from now, the big one.
What was Sammartino talking about? His fist or a watch? What do you think about pickpocket hanging around grade school in your something? Let me tell you something. I'll stick my stones anytime I want to. Down, Beefcake. That's what you're going to do, my man.
Wait.
That's enough! That's enough! I will not let this man talk. I will do the talking for him. I want everybody doing simple fact that JP is the mouthpiece, and I am out there at that ringside. Should Bruno Sr. stick his nose in where it's not mine? Now you come on down. I'm going down right now. This is going down right. Tino now thrown outside the ring through the second and third rope to the heart. Look out! Johnny Valiant picks him up. Here comes Fuller. Body slam on the cement. Bruno Sammartino rams. Flushes down into the ring. Here comes Dan. On the board. Look out! Pearl Harbor from behind by Brutus Beefcake. Double team effort now. Sammartino, there's son David.
Because it was Brutus that threw the first shot against Bruno, I'm not sure who won this match or if anybody won this match. So that's why I am curious to see what the decision is in this match.
Disqualified both teams and rules this match a double disqualification.
David Sammartino picking up.
Yeah, I thought it would be a double disqualification.
Right. In WrestleMania, holy mackerel, what action we've seen already. Unbelievable, Gino. I'm so excited to be sitting here ringside with the best seat in the house, Daddy. Well, it's just unreal what's transpiring here, what's going down. We've already seen one record set as Big King Kong Bundy just annihilated for SD Special Delivery Jones in a record 9 seconds, which I'm sure will stay in their record book for many, many years to come.
And then we saw the living legend himself, Bruno Sammartino, coming back. Don't look like he's lost that much. Still moving real well, and who knows what'll become of Beefcake, Valiant, and the Sammartinos.
And still to come, the confrontation of all time, so stay with us. Right now, let's go to our locker room area. Co-host Lord Alfred Hayes.
Now we come to the first of our title matches here on WrestleMania. And that
DQ. Sammartino now thrown out, but back into the ring, and now Sammartino in WrestleMania. Oh, it's set as Big King.
Now we come to the first of our title matches here on WrestleMania.
Sorry, I was trying to fast forward. I couldn't do it fast enough.
And that pictures a man who has an unblemished record. In fact, he's second to none, and second to none in charisma as well. The Junkyard Dog. And he's going against the champion, Greg Valentine, for the Intercontinental title. Let us hear what they have to say.
Baby, for your man. 250 pounds, baby. The biggest day of our life. You're ready, aren't you, champ?
We're gonna find out why I am the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, why I am the master of the figure 4 leg lock, and why they call me the Hammer, because I hit him and nail him harder than anybody else in professional wrestling. I'm ready to fight. I'm in the greatest shape in my entire life. Down 16 pounds to 248. Lean, mean, and full of fighting fury.
I thank you very much, Intercontinental Champ Greg the Hammer Valentine. Moments from now to be challenged by this man, Junkyard Dog.
In a few minutes, man, I may have the biggest opportunity of my life to get my hand on that Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship belt. And for you, Weasel, I don't care what happened today. You're going to see one of the nastiest individuals ever come in the world. I need myself a bone to chew on, and I can buy myself a whole lot of bones when I get my hand on that
He
belt.
promises to be a firefighter, Greg the Hammer Valentine, to meet the Junkyard Dog.
The Juker, very determined individual, wants to get his hands on that title. JYD unloading with big lefts and rights.
Wow, another left, a right. Valentine goes to the eyes.
Double leg takedown. 1, 2, 3. Greg Valentine got extra leverage on the ropes, so he cheated to keep the Intercontinental title. Don't know why, but they never, to my knowledge, put any title on Junkyard Dog, and right where he came from, even though he could only do 5 moves correctly in a match, he had enough charisma to where he was a multiple time heavyweight champion in the Mid-South territory. I don't think he ever challenged for the NWA title, but he was tag team champions once, and he was probably a multiple, like I said before, he probably carried the North American title several times, which to them was their heavyweight title, so that's what I'm surprised at more than anything. But it's just an example of how not everybody wins a title, and not everybody that's a contender for a title wants it either. So there's a lot of different ways you can look at things. So that I'm gonna press play and get to the next pre-recorded promos or interviews from the tag teams in the next title match.
Once more, I want to reiterate to our millions of fans out there that the Intercontinental title does not change hands on a disqualification or count-out. It must be a pin or a submission. So, Greg the Hammer Valentine is still the reigning Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. Let's go right now to Lord Alfred Hayes.
Thank you, Gino. And now on WrestleMania, we're coming to our next title match. and it is the challengers Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik with their manager Fred Blassie, and they're going against the champions, a team of young men, fine young athletes who have swept up the whole world of wrestling, and that of course is Barry Windham and his partner Mike Rotundo, and they have their manager Captain Albano. Both these teams have quoted opinions. Let us hear some more about those opinions that they had to express.
All right, fans, one of the big feature matches this afternoon. Windham and Rotundo to defend against these two men, Nikolai Volkov and Iron Sheik, with Fred Blassie in their corner.
You know, Gene, man, this is my best time in life for shop situation. Same thing, my partner, Nikolai Volkov. Ask my manager, Mr. Blassie, gonna tell you.
What about I
predict I got the next World Tag Team Champions right here.
Okay, comrade Volkov, I'm sorry.
You're very, very busy. I come, I see, I conquer.
Thank you very much. Very good. Thank you, Nikolai Volkov, the Iron Sheik, with the Hollywood fashion plate. Fred Blassie is their manager. Speaking of fashion plates, come on in, Captain Lou Albano. Your guys, Rotundo and Windham this afternoon with a title defense.
Championship match, Gene. We're filmed. We're prepared thoroughly. I'm ready to go. We're hoping for a victory. We're going to do our best for the people and for ourselves. God bless you all. We're going to try real hard.
I thank you very much, Lewis. Mike Rotundo, any thoughts from you?
All the talking's done, Gene. We're going in the ring now and get it done.
And Barry Windham?
Gene, we're on our way in the ring right now.
All right, it is WrestleMania, and it is going to be something else tag team action.
I remember this. I don't know if it's a cane or what it is, but there's a real stiff shot given from Freddie Blassie to Mike Rotunda, and like say the back of his neck, and it knocked him out, and that's what led to the actually today they would call them Americans. I'll just call them Volkov and the Iron Sheik. Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik won the titles, and because around this time Freddie Blassie, classy Freddie Blassie, was probably having a difficult time walking on his own, so probably took something that was not his cane, was hard enough to use, and was a great way to use that. Use something that's like an illegal foreign object, and it didn't break or anything, so it's a great way to make it look real, and they won the titles. So I'd say great job in keeping a kayfabe enough for the day. I always would show replays, so that's what I want to see. It was a cane, okay. Let's see if it breaks at all.
Not a popular decision, Gino. The fans here at the Garden are irate. They are irate. Let's go back.
Okay, it was Windham. It was hit in the back of the neck. Okay. Okay. Referee was distracted with Mike. Archie comes up with the cane. Oh, it actually broke over Barry Windham's, I think it was his neck or his shoulder blade or something. That's how they win the titles. So the question is, how would they... Well, they didn't have pay-per-views every month like they do today. And the shows they have aren't, that I know of, aren't on the network. So, yeah. So, it's going to be really interesting to read, after getting to the end of the pay-per-view. It'll be really interesting to read how, feuds like this, or moments like this or controversies like this were addressed in the next TV taping.
Blassie, Freddie Blassie, and Blassie's got the tag team champions.
Well, I'd have to say, Jesse Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon, I perhaps shocked as much as anybody here as part of WrestleMania. I cannot believe it. Fred Blassie, finally, your men.
Well, I'll tell you, like they say, all is fair in love and war, and this definitely was a war.
The next people to talk are Andre the Giant and John Studd, as they're about to, and these of course are pre-recorded comments, they're about to take part in the $15,000 or $10,000 body slam challenge.
Now then, we're coming to a most intriguing match, if I dare to use that word. Two giants in the World Wrestling Federation are going to clash, and the stake is $15,000. Big John Studd, managed by Bobby the Brain Heenan, have this money, and they have challenged Andre the Giant. John Studd says, I am the only true champion, Giant. And Andre the Giant says, I am the Giant. But remember, there is one important factor. Should the Giant lose, he is going to have to retire from wrestling if he doesn't slam Big John Studd. They had something to say earlier on. Let's see what that was.
All right, we're just moments away from the big one. When I say big, the Battle of the Titans, Big John Studd with $15,000. Bobby Heenan, come on in. Andre the Giant putting his entire career on
This
the line.
bag is heavy, man. This is what it was all about. $15,000 that we use for bait. John Studd, the only giant in wrestling, 7 foot plus, nearly 400 pounds of solid muscle. And this was what we wanted, to prove to the whole world that I am the giant in a few short moments. Along with this $15,000, you're going to see me in the ring, and you're going to see the last match of Andrea, because he retires when he can't do it.
Bobby Heenan, I'm just...
You know what we did with the money here? Keep your hands to yourself, pal. For $15,000 and a haircut, we're eliminating Andre the Giant from professional wrestling. Oh, yeah, a lot of glad-handers around here today. Keep your hands out of there, pal. Only 2 people are going to see this money. That's Studd and myself. Oh, 3. The people at the bank when we deposit to draw the interest. But not the Giant. He's retired.
Stand by. Heads up.
He's done. And don't you touch our money.
We're back, wrestling fans, and holy mackerel, this wrestling extravaganza of WrestleMania has been nothing short of sensational. Jesse, it's just unreal what's going down. Well, like I said before, Gino, I've seen plenty of anticlimactic Super Bowls in my day. I've seen plenty of lousy NBA championships in my day, but we definitely are not seeing, we're seeing the greatest spectacle in wrestling history right now. Right now, we're going to be coming up to the biggie, the $15,000 slam match. And without...
I'm thinking that because of Andre, a lot of times when you would hear him talk, it was hard to understand what he was saying. So because he didn't have a manager, that's why they didn't have him talk. He did win the $15,000 body slam challenge.
He's basically letting both of them go at it. Well, that's what it's
But the best part of this was him taking the money bag, taking the money out, cash out, and throwing it to the audience. And Bobby running in, being the weasel that they called him to be, took the bag and ran out of there. See, I can't help but laugh.
What do you call that, Jess? Unbelievable. I can't believe it. Bobby the Brain Heenan sneaking up behind Andre.
Winner of the slam match.
Than any money involved.
I don't know. This up here somewhere, but I don't care about that. Wait.
Let's go back to ringside. Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse the Bloody Vengeance.
Unbelievable. One happy Giants, Jesse.
So they didn't have an official interview for the women's title match between Wendy Richter and Leilani Kai.
Slam heard round the world. Absolutely. The slam heard round the world is coined correctly by my colleague Jesse the Body Ventura. A happening going on here in Madison Square Garden as WrestleMania continues to prove to be the biggest wrestling event of the century, brought to you by the World Wrestling Federation. Let's go right now back into the locker room area and his lordship, Alfred Hayes.
We're coming to one of the most interesting matches, the first of our, good gracious, or good luck, something like that. But it is the first of our Wrestling Rock connection matches. We have Leilani Kai versus Wendy Richter, and of course in Wendy Richter's corner is Cyndi Lauper. Before they had a lot to say, let's hear what that was.
All right, moments away. The ladies' title up for grabs. Cyndi Lauper, Wendy Richter. A big one for you.
That's right, Mean Gene. Shmula, Lanny Carr, you better watch out because these are powerful words because this is a powerful woman and I'm a powerful manager now because I was taught by Captain Lou Albano just how to manage.
Wendy Richter, your thoughts?
I didn't lose that belt to one person. I lost it because Moolah interfered in my match, and I'm dead set on getting it back where it belongs.
All right, ladies, please, ladies, I thank you very much. Cyndi Lauper and Wendy Richter, the opposing view right now for the reigning champion, Leilani Kai. And, of course, Moolah, where did you get those glasses?
My jeweler made them for me for special occasion for tonight because he's so proud of me and my champion, Leilani Kai.
Well, don't tell Jesse Ventura about it. Yes, Leilani Kai, time
I'm good and ready. I don't care what I got to do or how I got to do it to beat Wendy. I'm going to do it. I'm going to come back dressed with my hand as Victor.
Okay, within reasons, please, ladies. Part of WrestleMania. Leilani Kai will in her corner to be challenged
Not
by
yet.
Wendy
Almost.
Richter
Thank you.
with Cyndi Lauper in her corner.
This contest is for the world.
Okay, the out of this match was like a 6-minute match. Leilani Kai is going to the top rope. See what Wendy does right here. Reverses the crossbody X leg 3. Regains the World Women's title. Then in the main event, as I recall, Hogan is turning around Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, who had him in the old-fashioned full Nelson. And Bob Orton Jr. was like he wasn't paying attention, so when he jumped off the top rope to use his illegal cast, he hit Paul Orndorff in the back of the neck instead of Hogan. And that's how Hogan and Mr. T won the match. Because the referee, Pat Patterson, no, not Pat Patterson, said his name earlier, but I forgot. So because of that, Hogan made the cover. Snuka, remember Jimmy Snuka was in Hogan and Mr. T's corner. He knocked Bob Orton Jr. off his feet with the right hand, and that's how they won the titles. Pat Patterson was the referee. So that's all that transpired. The pay-per-view was regardless of what they said about whatever, regardless of what the characters Piper and Orton said about Paul Orndorff, it was not Orndorff's fault, it was Bob Orton Jr.'s fault for jumping off without making sure he was in the right position. So let's see. The aftermath was of this. You had Greg Valentine losing the Intercontinental title back to Tito Santana in a cage match. At about the same time, Nikolai Volkov, the Iron Sheik, lost the tag team titles back to the U.S. Express. Then U.S. Express held them until August when they dropped the titles to Beefcake and Greg Valentine. And that's how they became known as the Dream Team. July 8th, 85, Don Morocco won the inaugural King of the Ring tournament by defeating the Iron Sheik in the finals. After the Andre the Giant beat Big John Studd formed a tag team with King Kong Bundy. They faced Hogan and Andre the Giant on a number of occasions. Then they teamed up in handicap matches, Studd and Bundy did, which of course was 2-on-1, and it was against Andre, which renewed the feud between Andre the Giant and Big John Studd. Then Wendy Richter lost her women's title in late 1985 in controversial fashion. It was a masked female wrestler known as the Spider Lady. and who won the title. And it turned out she was actually the former champion, the Fabulous Moolah. And Lenny Richter left the company after that, shortly after that, and Moolah held the title for close to 2 years. And a new storyline for after WrestleMania, Piper began training Bob Orton Jr. as a boxer. This led to Saturday night's main event with Mr. T going against Bob Orton Jr. in a boxing match, which eventually led to the second WrestleMania where Mr. T and Piper had a boxing match against each other. So this was all great stuff for any fan of wrestling to watch. Okay, glad I read all of that, and oh, I'm sorry, I went an hour and 15 minutes. I didn't realize, but it's still fun, and I hope y'all enjoy this after I download the full episode. All right, thank y'all, and goodbye.